Access to computers and anything which might teach you something about the way the world works should be unlimited and total. Always yield to the hands-on imperative. All information should be free. Mistrust authority. Promote decentralization.
But watching, what was it, Cypherpunk, the cryptology, is that what it's called?
Cryptography.
Cryptography.
Are you talking about the 4-part series?
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
that's it's called Cypherpunk's Write Code. So
Yeah.
this gets confusing because there's Cypher, like Cypher,
Yeah.
Cypherpunks, which were a real group of kind of hackers and cryptography experts, and created a multitude of tools. And then there's Cyberpunk, which is more of just, it's an aesthetic / kind of a cultural and narrative mindset movement. And so both of those,
both are dope.
Both are dope, and they both intersect each other. But yeah, they get confused a lot. Anyway, so you're talking about the cypherpunks.
Yeah, I was thinking, because a lot of them, when they're talking about code breaking or just coding in general, what if the new way of getting past these, I don't know, the norm that's been created on the internet, what if the way to break this new code is having more in-person, no technology present conversations? Like, it was a weird abstract thought, but I was thinking, I'm like, have we gotten to the point where there's like, besides things like Signal and everything like that, like, have we gotten to the point where we can't have, is basically our advanced civilization that we talk about in society, is it becoming so detrimental that we are losing the progress we made between personal relationships? Maybe not even personal relationships, but like, has the thought of messaging that way clouded our vision of like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm just word vomiting right now. But what I'm trying to get at is like, I think that having more in-person conversations has become less desired.
Yeah.
And maybe that is what's going to ultimately, I don't know, bring us down as just a society in general. Because then I start thinking about how anxious people are. And when I say people, I'm including myself, with just social interactions, how depressed, how like jumpy people are almost in social settings. And it seems like it's brought on, at least in my world, by a heavy use of talking to people virtually. And then at that point, people, if all of your conversations and all of your dialogue with people is on these apps that these companies, if they ever need to, they can just figure out like what kind of conversation you've been having, is the new way to hack against that.
To go back
the
and
most
stop using
analog, primitive way to hack it is like, well, we'll just have a conversation with no digital device in the room at all whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're actually getting on a good idea here. Now, if you went all the way back to just physical conversation, like no devices in the room, like that type of deal, you're going all the way back.
It would be more expensive.
That's as primitive as it goes.
Well, because say, what if you wanted to talk to someone in Japan? Then it's like, well, then at that point, and it was very serious, and it was very like you needed to get this vital information, but you really wanted no one else to have it. So then, I mean, at that point, you would technically, because the internet brought along the distance thing is like, not a problem.
Yeah.
At that point, then you would be bringing back all of the the bad sides of having to get a plane ticket and actually go or meet up with this person, and then. So I mean, it's a give and take, no matter what.
So you're kind of pointing out that when you So first of all, I think of digital security / privacy. I think of that on a spectrum of convenience versus basically like, yeah, security. Like what's more convenient is going to be less secure.
Yeah.
Almost always. And so what you're talking about, like physically flying across the world to meet with someone in person, that's the most inconvenient.
Right.
Maybe the most secure. And so really what it comes to is that you have to take a step or two back as far as generations of technology whenever you want to get back more security or privacy or autonomy. And so what that looks like if you see a lot of privacy tools that people are looking or people might be using, like you might see me setting up my VPN and setting up my firewall and all of that on my Linux computer, and I'm just in the command line, and it looks like I'm someone who's coding from the late 90s or something. Like it looks like I'm using a technology generation back, and I basically am. But I'm making a trade-off where it's the software that I'm using it's all open sourced, so it's all transparent. You can view the code. Not that I particularly do that, but that just means it's out in the open, so it's more trusted. So yeah, it's open source. You can verify it with encryption. You can verify that you're getting the correct code, and it's collaboratively worked on, and it's made just so that you can. It's self-hosted, just so that you can be the person in charge. You can take responsibility over that aspect. Maybe you could download some Windows VPN software, and that's the most convenient thing to do. But if you self-host your own VPN, that's less convenient, but you get to keep the data. And so that it's always these trade-offs. And this is why I was kind of saying it's like, the users, us, the people, we need to take the extra step, take a little bit more responsibility, but also the companies, the engineers, the creators of software, like they need to take a step in the direction of giving us more tools for autonomy. They're convenient.
Do you think do you think that's actually a conscious thought that they don't want to give us more autonomy? Like,
it's just the incentives are such, like the data is valuable.
Yeah.
Like the incentives are to get as much data back as you can, like in so many ways, because it's profitable, because that's how you get computer systems to be more accurate. That's how you get feedback from users. What parts of your site are users using the most, tracking every click, every hover of the mouse cursor. Like everyone is incentivized to do that. So it takes someone, and that's why open source is important. It takes someone to just be like, I'm going to create the best product and I'm just going to release it for fucking free. And it takes someone to just like take that grenade and just throw it in. And it does not very often does something that's open source like that, like really break through into the public and really become a supreme product that wins people over and is ethical. That's why Signal is special. I mean, literally Linux itself, which is very old, is a version of that. It's like an open source software operating system. Open source operating system is, so much is built on that now, and that's a trusted piece of software that everyone can verify. Like that's a big win. There's other examples. Bitcoin is another big example. To where these, like we have control, we have autonomy, but it can kind of break over into being that user experience to where anyone can use it, and you don't necessarily have to be in the command line, doing all that shit. And so I think, I think that the demand, this all sounds pessimistic. I'm not pessimistic, even though I spend too much of my time thinking about this stuff and focusing on it and working on it for myself. But like, I think there's a demand of people, lots of people like you and me, that want more autonomy, want more control, and just want freedom and privacy on the internet and in more aspects of their digital lives. And I think that demand will spawn. I think there's going to be whole new movements of tools and all sorts of stuff that happens because the bloated big tech monopolies, they're so bloated right now. They have so much money and so much data. It's mind-boggling. And the people will only take so much before like the bubble just pops, and people are going to scramble and do whatever they can. And like already
What if
there's
it all went dark.
Well, huge portions are going to go dark, never to see the light again. Yeah. Like that's what's going to happen, and that's what stuff like Bitcoin enables.
Think about.
Here's something to think about, like with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin started, or the idea of having uncensorable digital scarce cash. That idea started on the Cypherpunk newsletters in the early 90s. There was many crazy ideas of digital black markets and digital hitman markets, and there's all of these crazy ideas, and even remailers. That was something that was around in the 90s. That was a very cypherpunk tool that you could like subscribe to, kind of email like newsletter communications with people, and you could do it in such a way to where you had servers remailing each other, so that way it was like anonymized who was getting what, and and they communicated all of these ideas, all of these, I mean, some very shocking ideas, but digital cash was one of them, and like money precedes nations. Money comes before a government comes, and money comes before a nation comes, or a king is crowned. And so like if you have money that's fully free on the internet, or not just money, but just all of these tools or capabilities that are free and open source, and individuals can access them, that's basically like the dark. That's basically the dark web. That's basically giving individuals capabilities that you can't take back.
Yeah.
And right now, we live in the opposite system, very much. But the incentive, all of the incentive, I think, is shifting towards these tools being built, and then also users kind of just becoming more aware, becoming more careful. And so I feel like I'm kind of repeating the same thing here, but like
I just always want, kind of back what I was saying before with people becoming lazy. Like I'm scared that people don't even want to take the incentive, or like don't even have the drive to want that. Like they've become so reliant on how they like almost convince themselves that like, okay, this is how the world is now, and this is the only way that I'm going to survive. And it almost seems like it's like a hex or like a spell that's been put on people, where they're just like, they believe that people didn't survive without the internet for fucking centuries before this. Like, life is so much easier right now with technology, but also if we were to take technology out of this century, it would still be hella fucking easy to survive. And I feel like some people have like lost that belief. Do you think that at all?
I don't know. With as much people as there are, I don't know if it works like that.
What do you mean?
I don't know that it. I think that because we have the technology capabilities, that's the only way that we're able to keep like a sustainable population, like the U.S. Mostly fed and functioning and with electricity. Not that.
Well, I'm just talking more of like the general population that already uses the general population that's basically the livestock for what these. I'm saying like
without the like service, just the services. Yeah, like a lot of people could survive. They could be.
That's what I'm saying more so. Yeah, like
no, totally. But people,
which in a way
I agree
would
with
be,
you that I don't think people are going to do that. Which is why, like, just all that you can do is try and put out information, inform people, build the tools, and then for those that are going to take responsibility, they'll do that. Like they'll take responsibility and they'll have all the more advantage for it. See, this reminds me of, I think we were talking about this a little bit when we were talking about video games and video game worlds and the future of VR and all that stuff. Like when you give individuals these tools, these like digital tools and these capabilities, it's like access to leverage, basically. Like if you give someone who's extremely clever and a brilliant writer, and maybe a comedian or something like that, like if you give them Twitter, that is leverage. You give that individual like a tool where they can take their skill and they can do 10x more than someone who's just like an average schmo, like us with our writing or or any of that stuff. And so if you have a society where people who are willing to take responsibility for certain aspects of their digital lives and use digital tools to their own benefit, and then those who are on the opposite end and they're just gonna like, this is too much and I'm just gonna stay subservient and I'm just gonna like suck on Google's teat forever. Like that creates a huge divide where you've got people who are just like absolute sheep and are totally reliant on the system completely, and then you have on the other end completely sovereign individuals who not even nation states can censor their money or their information flows or anything like that. And so it's like either way, no matter what, whether the big companies keep on going as they do or things get more equitable on the internet, like no matter what happens, those tools and capabilities are coming, and that divide will come. And that's why it's important. It's imperative to educate people about like digital autonomy and to also build the tools so that more people can hop on that train and get their data back and get their privacy back so that they're less vulnerable as time moves forward.
Gotcha.
That's all of this, this is just kind of how I think about this stuff. I mean, I'm totally open to other ideas and criticism. And, like I said, I'm not an absolutist. I don't think that these companies are absolute evil or necessarily, but it's just like absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
And, like free flow of information, this is important for human rights. This is important for freedom across the world. I'm thinking about people who live in dictatorships who are not allowed to speak or access information freely. Yeah. Like the people who are truly most oppressed in this world, they should have as much access as us. We have, we have all these tools and we have this advantage of access. And, it's about making the whole digital world just have more equality of opportunity to where any individual, whether they're in West Africa or the West Coast, can just access the internet, can access these open communication protocols and use it to their full advantage to make the best life they can or make the best decisions they can. Like that's my political stance, basically. Like,
gotcha. Yeah.
I'm a freedom maximalist in that regard.
Yeah, and instead it's just the issues are internalized here and turned into memes, and then everyone's just like retweet, like this is how we're dealing with it. Like,
I know
is what it seems like to me, at least. Yeah. Which I've been kind of like, I've been in the vein of trying to exit out of technology use. And I guess that's where a lot of my questions are coming from, is my approach to it has just been like trying my hardest to not use it like I have used it in the past. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I don't think that's a right or wrong way to approach it. That's just like where my head has been at finally, is just like, I think I'm going to take an exit slowly and figure out a way somehow to either take control of everything that is on the internet that has to do with me, and either somehow get rid of it or just have it and then delete everything, or get better at using it. I don't know. That I'm always torn in between those two things, personally.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, my my plan, like we're starting from a losing position when it comes to digital security and privacy and ownership. And so, yeah, it's a slow, what a successful way out looks like is just a slow process, a consistent accumulation of responsibility. You know, just taking each piece of your digital life and just reclaiming it little by little, self-hosting it, learning more about it, just reducing your exposure as much as possible, and then taking your life. I think of it as, I'm a visual person. I think of it as bubbles. Like my whole life is in this digital data bubble that has all been inside of the system. It's all exposed.
Yeah.
And only in the last 3 years have I begun to use tools where I'm not adding to that bubble, where I'm actually creating this new private bubble, this new life, digital footprint of my life that's private, that I control and that I know about. And then my vision of what success looks like is to, that old bubble that exists is to not add to it, leave it be, add to this new one that's private and secure and I have control over. And then all I do is continually add to the new one, and the two will drift apart. And then you cut the tie. Okay, well, that's kind of a visual. It's not nearly that simple, but just, you know, steer the ship of your information, the information you're leaking, into the direction to where you're controlling it. I think this is what a journey that a lot of people are going to be taking, and just getting money. It's like getting Bitcoin, getting money that can't be censored, and like that's such a huge start.
Getting
That's,
that paper,
yeah.
the metaphorical paper.
Yeah, I mean, you can store it on paper. It's just information. So, you know, that's a type of fuck you. Like if you have $1,000 of Bitcoin sitting on a physical device, no matter what happens, you can run away anywhere in the world and have a few days of, or maybe more, depending on where you go, just like have uncensorable money. Yeah. You know, and that's a powerful idea. Or
that's a power move for sure.
Yeah, or if you have a phone that is dark, a device that is not at all connected to your identity, and you're able to connect to the internet and ask a question or search for information that you don't want attached to your identity. You know, like, are you going to be able to do that? And these are the little bites I'm talking about. It's like, is taking these little things, and the first easiest start is, could I contact, you know, someone, my friend or my family member, with something it's so sensitive, like no one could find out, it couldn't be attached to your identity, and could I message them? Well, Signal, you can now. And so that's one thing that you can give back. Or even, can I have my day-to-day conversations with my wife where we're texting back and forth? And can I do that in a way to where, I don't know, there's not a database with our entire relationship on it? Right. Like, and so these are the little bites to be taking. But that said, I know this is like maybe frustrating for a lot of people to hear, because it's still early. Like, we don't have a lot of tools yet.
It gets wrapped up in politics too. I mean, unfortunately, like everything else in this fucking country, like it all just gets wrapped up in this passive aggressive, like everyone's too close-minded. The open-minded people are so close-minded that, like, if you even try and suggest any type of conversation about wanting your data to be kept, you know, for yourself and not anyone else's gain or use, that the automatic responses are usually just like, well, no one would want to read that, or no one wants to, like,
or what do you have to hide? I don't have anything to hide.
You're missing the point. That's like missing the mark so fucking hard,
and that's such a classic response.
Well, and I guess
I can't
that's
tell you
also,
how many times I've heard it.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of what you're also talking about, and kind of what we've been talking about, of people kind of becoming lazy or not wanting to step up and take that responsibility. People have become, like, I don't know, less responsible with the actual use that we've been given.
Okay, so let's go way back to this. This is a framework I've thought about before, is when it comes to like our safety or our defense or our security in the physical world, like we have natural intuitions for this. Like we've evolved to be very safe, to be very careful, to be very secure. That's like why we survived cruel nature for all these thousands of years, you know. And but that's in the physical world. So like if you're in a dark alley, or even just, I don't know, walking on the street, if you hear like footsteps pattering behind you very quickly, without being able to help it, your body, like your whole nervous system will light up, and your body will let you know, like you should be anxious right now. Like your body will make you aware.
Slender Man is behind me.
Yeah, like you've got these and that's actually like that's how a lot of those same natural intuitions we have are played with in horror movies and like horror video games. Like something jumping out, like that's a classic, like a quick movement. That's a classic type of thing that will activate these natural defenses we have. Now, we have absolutely no digital intuitions. So we have no intuitions in the world of digital security or these networks that we are spending more of our lives on. There's no intuitions there, or they're very early. Like we're only just now developing them. You mentioned something earlier, I think when we weren't recording, about like how even though our elders, our parents, I don't know, like
The wiser generation.
yeah, they're more wise. And, you know, people mock boomers, and like I respect wisdom. Yeah. I do see that there is a thing, wisdom, and that it's like you can see that like experience and just a sheer amount of experience can give people a type of wisdom and a type of clarity over the world, and that often comes with age. Not that it's always that way. But you can also see where wisdom is separated from, like, I don't know, just intelligence or other types of awareness that maybe come more with youth. You have developed, or a lot of us young people have been on Facebook and Twitter and all that shit for 10 years. Like, we've actually developed an intuition for, like, certain intuitions for information accuracy. Certain intuitions,
just the natural evolution and progression of trial and error. At least I think.
Yeah. Like we've just had more time, and as younger people, we've gotten to like mold our brains around the digital environment.
Yeah,
and so we've gotten a little more tuned
for the generations. Most of
the generations and just the species.
Yeah,
like us as a species. So like, you know, there's the intuitions you might develop in a lifetime, and then there's the intuitions that come encoded in you. And it's like, for the boomers, they don't have either in the digital realm. So
very few.
Yeah.
Very few.
And then the Gen Zers, or the young people that are going to be born, like they're going to be the opposite. They're going to like have super intuitions for the digital world. I don't know. I have no idea what that's going to look like.
I wonder what it would look like for a generation in the like near future, 30 to 40, 50 years later, that are like rejected. They just like completely take their whole generation back to 20 to 30 years of like time right now, you know, like 90s, 80s, 70s. Like that sounds like a story. Sounds like a novel, actually.
It probably is. I wonder if you'll be able to like VR time travel in the future, or like fake, like people just like
probably
make, like America in the 1940s, and you can go like to a milkshake shack. I don't know,
dude. Of course,
whatever they do.
That'll probably be in museums. Honestly, I could see that
VR.
being a VR experience in a museum where it's like go back into any time history, like even with colorization, with like black and white video of like things like World War II. I feel like I'm going into a time machine when I watch.
That's true. When they do
documentaries
like the
that.
colorized,
Yeah.
of the,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, this is so old, and really, it's only like 60 years
Yeah.
or 80 years old or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just getting older, so it's insane that we can affect our perception of history now. Something that's like 80 years old.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much has changed. And God, I mean, yeah, just like back to, like the people living during that time, they most of their intuitions they are born with we're still serving them very well.
Yeah.
In their life and their social life and stuff like that. And like we're just getting less. We're getting to use those built-in skills less and having to develop more different, faster moving technology skills and all of that. And like this cyberpunk as a narrative structure, which we were talking about, like the Cyberpunk 1990s documentary. You can look it up on YouTube. Like it goes over this really well. It started as looking at society as it is, looking at like how the world really is, and then importing that into the future. So basically just taking the trajectory of where we are and not being overly optimistic. Just taking it forward and being like, okay, like what are the incentives? What are the power asymmetries at play here? And that's why the cyberpunk narratives and worlds, they have these, like mega corporations, like super corporations and super government structures. And like, it's a very like strange mix of power asymmetries where there's super powerful multinationals. And then there's just like, the mega slums with people that don't have access to the technology or don't have access to anything. Like I remember in Cyberpunk 2077, like the game, like there's some reference to like the hospitalization or like all medical treatment is private, and like you have to like loan out your organ, or like you can like sell. Like there's some reference, some note I read where like, my mom had to like lease out her, like a few of her organs for when after she's dead in order to get coverage for this much longer. So
shit.
You're literally being like, just to get medical treatment, you're being drained of your very life. You're selling your very time, your very like
your time
essence.
on Earth or whatever.
Yeah, and like that's like an extreme example of where we are.
Yeah.
Just it's like projected forward, projected to its extreme.
Yeah.
Because we give up our time and our attention and working jobs and
40 hours.
yeah, and that's like kind of an equivalent. We're basically forced into doing it. We're in this money system that isn't controlled by us. It's controlled by someone else. And like,
what's your God-given right, son?
yeah, and and these early narratives were they were seeing something important. And the cypherpunks, the cypherpunks, they were inspired by like 1984, like the novel, or like Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451. Like there's these dystopian stories that involved information control. Like that was the idea. Like
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, like that was the burning of the books.
Yeah.
And then there's the Ministry of Truth in 1984. This idea that you've got a central entity that decides what's true. These, like the cypherpunks,
politics is based on looks and like how they present themselves more than their actual policies.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no truth. Like the people don't get a truth. They get like a show version, like a production version of, and they're just the plebs basically. And the cypherpunks saw this, and they saw even before the internet existed. They saw these stores and they saw the internet and they looked at history and looked at the way things were and they were like, we're in trouble.
This ain't gonna be good.
This isn't going to be good. Like information, like the centralization of information that the internet is going to allow is going to make the greatest powers of all time, because they realize that information is a type of advantage. It's a type of weapon. If you read Sun Tzu, if you read The Art of War, if you read these timeless texts or philosophies around battle or war or strategy, information is it's not just in the digital age. Like information is a powerful tool for oppression or for coercion. And these people saw that, and they wanted to build the internet that was where the individuals have an advantage. They have the power, and not these centralized entities. And that's how the internet started out. It started out with that ethos, and it started out kind of with that structure. And it's interesting. I feel like this goes back to political shit, but like, this is probably something a lot of Trump supporters or I feel like I've seen a lot of Trump supporters or QAnon or whatever extreme group you want to talk about, like that they mentioned 1984 or like Ministry of Truth or the Thought Police, like y'all are the Thought Police. And like, I'm afraid this is how we should be thinking about like that. It's almost trite. People are almost tired of hearing it, and they're going to be hearing it a lot more. It's going to sound cliche, but like really, like information is like that powerful of a thing.
Well,
and if we're giving it up, that's what it is. You're talking about 1984.
Yeah. It
like
just proves that the theory, kind of what I was saying at the top of the episode, it kind of just proves that no matter what you believe in or whatever faction or whatever tribe that you decide to go with, this topic we're talking about, the information of just us as a society, could be a unifying thing, like it being private or it being for or not, like for these corporations' use. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of this language and a lot of the conversation being used right now, like in defense of having privacy, is leaning toward like these extremist groups are emerging and being like, hey, this is like, we need this private, like whatever, like.
But it's also it's them steering the narrative. That's what they want the narrative to be. It's not just that it's those people, but those people will be the only ones to get news coverage, and the peoples who are truly just seeking freedom and safety, they will always be ignored.
Yeah.
And those are the people, that's the majority. Or just, the law-abiding citizens that are just trying to, own and protect their own data.
Well, then at that point, do you think those people who just want freedom and aren't backed by a narrative, do you think that it's almost like their duty to not take out the extremists, but like at what point do you start censoring, or not even censoring, but trying to purge, those people out? At what point is that acceptable, do you think? Like, should extremist groups even be allowed to use platforms that promote, freedom? Like, does everyone actually deserve the freedom that is placed in front of them if they're here in this country or whatever, to like have freedom of, I guess that's like an ancient thought or question, a philosophical, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a picking your own evil type of question. And I think that it is a philosophical question, and I don't necessarily believe in absolutes. I think there's subtleties, and it should all be explored, and we should be talking about this just because it's hard, but I err on the side of freedom. I think you give everyone freedom, because as soon as you have a controller, a censorer, you have an oppressor, and as soon as they become extreme, which is almost inevitable because absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I'm not suggesting that there should be a key holder. I'm just saying that should it then be the people who just want universal freedom for every person, no matter what type of person you are.
That stuff you're talking about, like I use the word purge, like that's not a top down. That's not like. It's one thing to say, should a group have the power to then pick out who can and can't be on a network, and then it's another thing to say, can the network itself control itself? Like, can the network itself just can the chaos and nature of the system that is like an open network, like the internet or like other open networks, like it can clean itself. If it's a well-designed network, it can cleanse itself. Like if it's meant to be an information network like the internet, what does it mean for an information network like the internet to be corrupted? Well, I think it's for the information to be nozzled and controlled by a few entities and to not be opened up. Or for everyone to only be receiving some of the information, not the other information, which that's where extremism would be a problem. But right now we don't have that. I think if you opened everything up, it's not like everyone would organize into a huge Trump nation of assholes who wanted to like overthrow everything. I don't think that would happen. I think that people would just like fuck off and actually just take care of their own concerns and mostly have the same ideas and want the same things that we've always wanted, which is safety and community and protect ourselves, protect our family, all those things, and to have freedom and to be able to, that comes with all of those things, to not be oppressed.
Yeah.
And I think, I want to have discussions about these things. I'm not totally convinced I'm right. I think about this a lot, so I'm obviously I'm super opinionated.
The more I think about it, like I said, the more I want to exit. The more I don't want to exist on the internet world personally. And that's kind of why I've been way interested in a more just, I don't know, not real, but just a pathway that doesn't include an internet like path. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm having word vomit again.
Kind of like just relying on it less.
Yeah. I mean, trying to rely on it less, which
and then also at the same time, if you're using it more and more responsibly, or using it more and more where you're controlling how you're using it.
Well, I guess I also just mean more like not even technology, but just the social technology.
Yeah.
The software, the social, the quote unquote social media, I guess is what I'll say. Because it seems like the more that and it might just be a personal thing, the more I use things that are supposed to make your social life better, my social life gets worse.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Like that could just be a me thing. It probably, it's, a percentage of it is a me thing. But I think a lot of people struggle with that too.
Yeah. And
that's what makes it weird. For me, is I noticed that a lot of people get affected by it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep going back to this topic, but
no, I mean, and not that I think everyone should live like this, but how I want to live, like looking around at how things are and kind of what I've examined in myself, which is similar to what you're saying about how social media makes me feel and changes my social relationships and what I really want out of life. Like the lifestyle I'm making for myself is more of like, like little like the exposure I have to technology. I want to have like a lot of responsibility over it, like a lot of control and understanding, and also intentionality with why I'm using it. Like I'm very intentionally using it to get me something, to get me a tool, to use a tool to have some kind of leverage in the world. And then, so when I do have exposure to the digital world, having the control and then having as little exposure as possible, spending more time reading books, spending more time walking in nature, spending more time like having real connections with people and less social connections. I'm more apt nowadays to just like hit people up like, hey, you want to get a drink tonight? And less of just, I don't know, like you want to play video games or like, let's text conversation or FaceTime or anything like that. Like that's, yeah, I just want to stick to a lot of old and timeless things. You know, I'm just imagining myself like chopping wood, my shirt off. You know, like I'm doing that, but also I'm hacking.
Right.
But no, only a little bit. Like only like 2 or 3 hours a day I'm hacking. And the rest of the day I'm just like chopping wood and like riding a horse,
Getting in a boat,
mowing
the yard.
Yeah, you know, and just like
clean the gutters.
Yeah, you know, maybe I have like a dirt bike. I don't know. And I'm playing music. Okay,
A
you know, being real. Yeah. Oh yeah.
A boomerang.
These are all things I want.
Yeah,
Okay, have you
same.
seen the jetpacks? Various jetpacks that people.
The ones that work with water. Or they like
I have
actually,
seen those. No, I have seen those. Those are a thing.
Where they
I would
just
be down
shoot
for one of those.
water out. Is it air or water that I don't even remember.
It's water.
It's water.
Yeah.
So it's like a Mario Sunshine situation.
Yeah. Yes. But they have like, I've seen them now. There's one where like, let's see, a guy's wearing a suit and there's a pack, and also his hands are in like
like an Iron Man situation.
Iron Man
but like
type
a
of
more
thing.
bulky Iron Man.
It's a little more bulky.
I've seen some UFO footage where people are like an unidentified flying man, and it's like literally it looks like a person in a jetpack. It was in
Really?
like Mexico or something. Yeah.
That might have literally been a dude in a jetpack. Well, there's those jetpacks. There's ones that are like backpacks with like the bars that stick out, like with like more like it's more of a structure, more controlled.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I saw a fucking hover bike.
Dang.
I mean, I didn't see it. I saw it on the internet. It's like smaller propellers, like maybe like that big, like 4 of them around a bike. And
What, did it get like this far off the ground?
no, they like took it up.
Oh,
That
really?
shit was like he took off.
Like Treasure Planet status?
Not quite. Not quite. Dude, Treasure Planet was sick.
That was the shit, man. I actually watched that recently.
Really?
Yeah,
Damn.
Disney Plus.
That's cool.
I think. No, wait, is it? I can't remember if it's a Disney movie. I watched it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I don't know why I start talking about that stuff, but you know, I'm trying to get a jetpack one day.
Yeah.
Like that's something.
I would love a
It's a
jetpack.
self-sovereign individual technology in meat space.
I would.
It's like instead of the plane and having the you know the flight company organization oppressing you, you can take control of your own flight. You know,
hover to work.
Yeah, that's like an equivalent.
I
of,
would
like, everything we're
love
talking
actually to ride a jetpack to my work. Like way more.
You just like roll up to Taco Bell, like if that's where you work with a jetpack.
Yeah.
That might be that.
Or
might
go
be the
on
move
food
in a decade.
deliveries with a jetpack.
Dude, I would.
I would hover over the people that I would call them. Be like, yeah, well, I'd have Bluetooth for one, because, you know, you got to be safe and have control. And I would fly to wherever I'm, you know, going to deliver and call them on the Bluetooth and be like, okay, your food's here. And then they walk outside, drop that shit. 10 feet above, just like, have a nice day. Fly off.
Dude. That reminds me, like, one of the...
I guess that's what drones are for, but...
Yeah. That's
how we
gonna
take
be.
back the drone infiltration. We make jetpacks, and then we
I don't know.
become
Maybe the dudes with jetpacks will be better.
flesh drones. That's what
Those
will
are
be
coming.
called.
Oh yeah, but so this book called Snow Crash, which is written by Neil Stevens. Anyway, that's one of the big cyberpunk kind of foundational books. The main character in that book, like part of the world is that everyone basically lives their lives they're holed up in their houses and they never go out. They're never driving around, and they live their lives in this like digital world basically. And the only people that are out on the road and like out in the streets are delivery drivers. And then these like skater punks who have like hoverboards and like are just like goons like wandering the city, like that type of deal.
Yeah.
And the main character is like a pizza delivery driver, who is like suited in like a crazy Batmobile type car, and there's almost no one on the road except for these like, you know, hoverboarding punks that will like grab onto his car and all of that. But anyway, like, yeah, that was like a real idea in the 90s that like only the delivery drivers will go out. Everyone else will stay inside and like, you know, just stay in their virtual worlds. And it's funny because that's like, this book was written in 91 or something.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's almost where we were.
You could
and,
argue
like,
that's
with
kind of,
COVID.
yeah, where we're going.
Yeah, like,
Definitely.
and it's crazy. Like I've told this to, you know, I think this could just be the summary of this episode. We're living in a sci-fi novel. Like,
We're getting there, yeah, but
we're
it's
at
not.
the
It's not as
beginning.
flat. It's not as flashy and cool looking as we thought it would.
it's
be.
not, but like
It never will be. I don't think either.
the
'Cause human
structures are in
mind is-
place.
Yeah. The
And-
human mind though is just so creative that it's going to make it look way more pretty than it ever will be. Jetsons, even Cyberpunk
Yeah,
2077, like.
I mean, but even
Akira,
that
which
stuff is
the Cyberpunk
right.
documentaries just made me want to watch Akira because
Oh,
they
yeah.
have so many scenes in that documentary from that movie.
From Akira.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that tonight. Honestly,
Dude, that's a sick one. Like the aesthetics are cool.
dude.
And
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm trying to,
a classic.
you know, like we live there. We might as well look that cool, and it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm more pissed about. We don't
I
have
know.
cool leather jackets.
But it's right around. It's right around the corner. You know the jacket from Back to the Future 2, where it like auto fits
Yeah,
to them,
yeah.
and it like dries.
just
dries
like the
itself
shoes
off.
too. The shoes would like auto fit.
Yeah.
On the Nikes or Nike's made of like a version that actually does that.
Fucking bionicle lug on your foot,
Bionicle.
dude. Like I see, like that's. I'm trying to live in that future. But the thing is, if we have that kind of like technology, but people aren't in control of their information, control of their money, control of their, you know, if there's a big digital world and it's very valuable and very important for everyone, and everyone doesn't have an equal stake, equal control, it's just like having a society where you have feudal lords and peasants.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the insight and
They
what
don't even realize it.
yeah, and that's just what I say when or what I mean when I say that we're living in a sci-fi novel is like we got to realize that's the place we're
it's
at.
where it could go if we don't start taking action now to have a more privatized internet, essentially, right?
Yeah, more
Like
free internet, I mean.
individuals have more privacy
Yeah.
on their internet existence. If we don't start fighting for that in whatever way that it comes about, you know, we could be threatened with a bad side of history
Yeah,
involving technology and the internet, society, diversion,
everything,
anything.
dude. China, like, I mean, like what China's doing.
We're
right
gonna
now.
get so monetized. Is that how you use the term?
Wait, what?
We're gonna get so just like
Monetized. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a term, like milked.
yeah, or no, we're gonna be the opposite of whatever people want for their big tech. The things we're talking about are not gonna be
Oh,
up front.
Yeah, we're getting
Or however you say
demonetized.
that. Demonetized.
Yeah, I
yeah,
see.
no, yeah, we're not going to be monetized
Yeah,
at all
it's
ever.
very,
this
it's
type
very
of
likely.
yeah, but we're not shooting for that.
We're not.
We're shooting for the opposite.
Are we though?
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. Man.
Is there a point to do it if we're not going to be monetized? Is that where
For its own sake.
our questions are? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I do most of what I do. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
I think that's going away though. At least it feels like it. It feels like everything that people do nowadays is there's got to be some type of
productivity
or
attached to
next
it.
level to it that will like get them to where they want to be. But it's almost like if that happens, it's like a dog chasing a car. Like you wouldn't know what to do with it when you got it. The off chance that you actually finally get it. You know?
You latch on to it.
Yeah.
Car.
Like,
I mean, I think there's plenty of that. Just why, you know, just live life, no expectations, chop wood with your shirt off, take control of your information, your mind, what
ride
you
a
believe.
horse.
Ride a hover bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I forgot what we were even talking about, but yeah, I mean, a lot of alarmist stuff, basically. You know, I don't want to be I don't want to feel like we're talking about negative stuff.
Yeah.
Every episode, but like I think these are interesting and important things to talk about. And like I said, I'm an optimist. Like I think the moves are happening. I think the moves are being made. You know, and like right now we're not just talking. Like we can do stuff. Like you can get Signal, you can buy Bitcoin. You know, you can do plenty of other things. Check out my app, fbexplorer.app. You can get all your Facebook information back.
Check it out. It's cool.
Self-shill
I've
right
used
there.
it.
But yeah, and that's a lot of what I'm into, what I'm spending my time on. But the show must keep going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess thanks for listening.
Yeah. Do you want to wrap it up?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a positive note or something that we can end on? I'm trying to think.
Watch Akira.
Yeah, honestly, watch Akira. It's not very positive, but it's badass.
Yeah, it. The visuals will be pleasing.
Yeah.
If you like bright colors and sci-fi.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a pretty negative movie.
Yeah, most sci-fi. Honestly, like there hasn't been optimistic sci-fi.
Well,
in a
I
movie.
mean, yeah.
Like Star Trek is kind of, I guess, that vision. Like that's the world I want to live in. I want to live in the Star. Like I'm not someone who's a pessimist. Like I want to live in the world where the world like scarcity is ended and everyone eats on Earth, and then we can just send out ships to go explore.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean that'd be ideal.
you know, that's where we're all trying to get. But what's the right way to get there? That's what everyone's arguing about.
Yeah. And is it even is the human brain just so creative though that we've created this unrealistic palette of like what we think is possible, and because of media we're like on this high of like, no, it's got to be like this way because like.
But what if it's the other way? What if we're actually undershooting? Like what's more likely? Are we overshooting or undershooting, or is it in the middle? Well, like you don't really know. I mean, is it even possible to get people outside of our solar system? You know, like we don't even know that yet. Let alone is it possible to build a Dyson sphere or to travel through a wormhole? Maybe that's not even the ceiling. Which that's where we need to talk about aliens in the Galactic Fed.
Yeah,
we got to join the Galactic Fed,
dude. It would be pretty sick. When I think of Galactic Fed, I think of Lilo and Stitch.